So we're about halfway through Ramadan and we must have all experienced suhoor tents and iftar across the country. You must be wondering how other parts of the world observe the holiest month of the Islamic calendar. In this KT Explainer video, we are going to tell you all about Ramadan across the world. Of course, the common ritual across the world is that Muslims fast during the daylight hours, which means they refrain from eating and drinking during the day, offer the prayers, and also avoid any form of conflict or disagreement during their fast. They all have a shared tradition of fasting, charity, and prayer. However, each culture brings their own heritage into play. So here are some of these examples. Let's start with Middle East and here in the UAE. Iftar cannons become a regular attraction during the holy month to signal the iftar time. In many countries across the Middle East, cannons are fired daily during the month of Ramadan to signal the end of the day's fast. Here in the UAE, you can spot them at the tourist landmarks of different emirates. This tradition is known as Midfa al-Iftar. It's said to have begun in Egypt about 200 years ago, when the country was governed by Ottoman ruler Khosh Khadem. While testing a new cannon at sunset, Khadem accidentally fired it, and many people took it as a new way of celebrating the iftar time. So let's take a look at some of these Middle Eastern countries. First up is Egypt. Every year, the people of Egypt welcome Ramadan with colorful fanus. These are the intricate lanterns that symbolize unity and joy throughout the holy month. The birth of the fanus tradition goes back to one night during the Fatimid dynasty, when Egyptians greeted Khalifat al-Mu'izzuddin Allah as he arrived in Cairo on the first day of Ramadan. To welcome them and light up the dark streets, the locals brought out candles covered in wooden frames to help them reach their destination. Since then, children use these lanterns to go around the town and also ask for sweets from their neighbors and friends. Let's move on to Iraq. They play the traditional game of Mahabis, predominantly played by men during Ramadan. This game involves two groups of about 40 to 250 players who all take turns to conceal a mahbis or ring. It's a game of deception. Mahabis begins with the team leader holding the ring, his hands hidden in a blanket. The other members must sit with their fists tight in their lap as the leader passes the ring to one of the players in secret. In a tense exchange, the opponents must figure out who holds the ring after it has been passed over and guess it based on body language and reactions. Across the country, individual community members continue to pass forward the tradition. Let's move on to Morocco. In Morocco's neighborhoods, they're mainly roamed around by the Nafar. He's a town crier, dressed in the traditional attire of a gondora, slippers and a hat. Marks the start of dawn with his melody. The Nafar walks down the street while blowing a horn to wake them up for suhoor. Similarly, in Turkey, there are drummers, dressed in traditional Ottoman costume, including a fez and vest that are both adorned with traditional motifs. As they go around with the davul, which is a Turkish double-headed drum, the Ramadan drummers rely on the generosity of residents to give them tips or even invite them in to share their suhoor meal. This tradition is also followed during the holy month of Ramadan in India, such as the Sehriwalas. They walk the streets of the city in the small hours of the morning, chanting out the name of Allah and the Prophet to serve as a wake-up call to Muslims for suhoor. And across Indonesia, Muslims conduct different rituals to cleanse themselves on the day before Ramadan. Several localities in Central and East Java keep a purifying tradition called padusan, meaning to bathe in Javanese dialect, in which Javanese Muslims plunge themselves in springs, soaking their bodies from head to toe. Years ago, it was common practice for local elders and religious leaders to pick and assign a sacred spring for padusan. Nowadays, many just go to nearby lakes and swimming pools or purify themselves in their own homes. So this was a quick tour of Ramadan traditions and cultures across the world. From Khaleej Times, we wish you a blessed Ramadan.